My name is Samantha, and at 26 years old, my boyfriend said, just pay for everyone's meal. Don't be cheap. At his friend's birthday, I said, you're right. Then I paid exactly my share and left. He's been paying his friend back for 3 months with interest. I work as an inventory analyst at a logistics company. Not glamorous, but it pays decently. Been with Nathan, 28, for about 14 months. He works part-time at a boutique, making maybe $1,800 a month. I make around $400. Not rich by any means, but I manage. Here's the thing. Nathan loves the high life. Designer bags, knockoffs mostly, but he tells everyone they're real. Expensive brunches, weekend trips. When we started dating, he'd pay his shares sometimes. That stopped about 6 months in. Suddenly everything was, babe, you know I'm saving for, followed by whatever excuse worked that week. I let it slide because honestly, I liked him. He was fun, spontaneous, made me feel like I was living a more exciting life. But looking back, I was basically financing his Instagram lifestyle. 2 weeks ago was his best friend, Delaney's 27th birthday. Big dinner at this upscale steakhouse, the kind where appetizers start at $28. Nathan told me it would be just a small group, maybe 6 people. Cool. I budgeted around $150 for both of us. Show up and there's 14 people. Delaney's entire friend group plus some cousins. Everyone's ordering cocktails at $18 each. Multiple appetizers. The works. I'm watching the mental calculator in my head explode. Halfway through dinner, Nathan leans over and whispers, Delan's been having a rough time with her breakup. It would be really sweet if you covered the birthday dinner. Show everyone what an amazing girlfriend you are. I said, that's really generous, but I can't afford to pay for 14 people. He got this look. You know the one. Like I just told him I kick puppies for fun. Don't be cheap, he said, louder now. A few people glanced over. It's his birthday. Just pay for everyone's meal. The table went quiet, everyone pretending they weren't listening while obviously listening. Delaney doing that fake humble thing. Oh no, you don't have to. I looked at the table, estimated the bill, already pushing $1,900 easy, and they hadn't even ordered dessert yet. You're right, I said to Nathan, smiled real big. I shouldn't be cheap. He looked so smug, grabbed my hand under the table like I was his obedient little prize. When the check came, I flagged the waiter. Can you split out just my meal, please? The salmon and the 1 beer. Dead. Silence. The waiter, bless him, didn't even blink. Of course, ma'am. Your total $43 plus tip. I paid $55 cash, stood up and said, Happy birthday, Delaney. Nathan's got the rest covered since he's feeling so generous tonight. The look on Nathan's face, like I just shapeshifted into a stranger. He grabbed my arm as I stood up. What are you doing? He hissed, not being cheap with my money. I said, You want to treat your friend? Go ahead. Left him there with a $2,200 bill and 13 confused people. Drove home, turned off my phone, and had the best sleep I'd had in months. Update 1. Remember when I said I turned off my phone? Yeah. When I turned it back on the next morning, I had 89 missed calls. Not from Nathan, though. He was blocked from numbers I didn't recognize. Turns out Nathan had given my number to everyone at that dinner, telling them I promised to pay and then bailed. The messages ranged from guilt trips, you ruined Delan's birthday, to straight-up demands. You owe me $96 for my meal. The best part, Nathan had to put the entire bill on his credit card, the one he's been maxed out on for months. The restaurant wouldn't let them leave without paying. Obviously, he had to call his mom to temporarily transfer money. But here's where it gets interesting. His friend Josie, who was at the dinner, actually DM'd me on Instagram with screenshots. Nathan had been in their group chat for weeks talking about how he was going to get me to pay for the whole dinner. Direct quote, she won't say no in front of everyone. She's too worried about looking bad. There were more screenshots. Nathan bragging about the designer purse he was going to make me buy him for Christmas. How he convinced me to pay for his cousin's wedding gift. $300 cash. How he was working on getting me to co-sign a car loan because his credit was shot. Josie ended with, I felt bad for you. He talks about you like you're an ATM. Thought you should know. I thanked Josie and saved every screenshot. Then things escalated. Nathan's mom called me, not to apologize, but to demand I make this right. Apparently, Nathan told her I humiliated him in front of his friends, and now he's too embarrassed to show his face. His mom actually said, and I quote, "A real woman provides for her man. What kind of future wife will you be?" I laughed. "Ma'am, your son tried to volunteer his partner with a $1,200 bill." She hung up on me. Then came the posts. Nathan went full nuclear on social media. Posted this sob story about how his narcissistic ex abandoned him at a restaurant with a huge bill, how I financially abused him by making him pay with money he didn't have, how I'd been controlling him with money throughout our relationship. The comments were wild. Half his friends were backing him up, calling me trash. The other half were oddly quiet. Then Josie struck again. She commented, "Didn't you literally say in our group chat that you were going to make her pay for everyone?" Nathan deleted the post within an hour. Update 2. Nathan's been having a rough time. And by rough, I mean karma came for him with a vengeance. Remember that $12,200 he had to put on his credit card? Well, it triggered an over-limit fee, then a late payment fee, because he couldn't pay the minimum. His interest rate jumped to 29.99% penalty APR. How do I know this? Because Delaney called me. Yeah, the birthday girl herself. "Look, I didn't know Nathan was planning to force you to pay. He told us all you'd offered. We ordered expensive stuff because we thought you were cool with it. I feel horrible." Delaney explained that Nathan had been hitting up everyone who was at the dinner for their portion of the bill. But here's the thing. Since they all thought I was paying, they went wild with ordering. Some people's portions were $150 to $200 each. They're refusing to pay that much. Nathan's been getting increasingly desperate. He showed up at his friend Brianna's workplace crying, demanding the $180 for her meal. Brianna's manager had to escort Nathan out. He threatened to take another friend, Antoine, to small claims court over his $95 portion. But the best part? Nathan's job at the boutique. He got fired. Not for the dinner thing, but because he'd been stealing inventory and selling it on Poshmark. The owner finally caught on when Nathan posted a dress that was literally still on display in the store window. Timing was coincidental, but Nathan's convinced I somehow orchestrated it. He tried to file for unemployment, but got denied because he was fired for theft. He can't pay his rent. His car got repossessed. Apparently, he was already 3 months behind. And his mom, who bailed him out with the dinner bill, is refusing to help anymore. Last week, things got weird. I got a call from my credit card company about suspicious activity. Someone had tried to apply for a credit card in my name. 3 guesses who? Yep. Nathan had my SSN from when we talked about maybe moving in together, and I'd filled out a rental application. He tried to open cards with 3 different companies. Luckily, I'd already frozen my credit after we broke up. Josie warned me Nathan might try something, so nothing went through. I filed a police report. Identity theft is a felony. The detective called Nathan in for questioning. He broke down and admitted everything, claiming he was desperate and I owed him for the embarrassment I caused. The detective literally laughed and told him that's not how the law works. Update 3. The district attorney decided to prosecute. Nathan's looking at potential jail time for identity theft, though his lawyer, public defender, will probably get him a plea deal with probation. Remember Josie, the friend who sent me screenshots? Well, she reached out again last week with a bombshell. Nathan had done this before. Exactly this, 2 years ago, with his ex, Ramona, same playbook, slowly stopped paying for anything, then tried to force him to pay for her sister's bachelorette party dinner. When he refused, she accused him of financial abuse on social media. The difference? He just blocked her and moved on. Didn't press charges when she keyed his car. Josie introduced me to Ramona virtually. This dude had stories. Nathan had stolen his PlayStation and sold it when he wouldn't buy him a new phone. Told his family he was abusive when he refused to pay her student loans. Used his credit card that he'd let her use once for gas to buy $800 worth of clothes. Claimed he was pregnant to try to get her back. He wasn't. Ramona's been with her now fiancé for a year, and they laugh about her bullet dodge with Nathan. She thanked me for actually holding him accountable. Meanwhile, Nathan's life continues to implode. He moved back in with his mom, who makes him pay rent. He's working at a call center, making $15 per hour. Still owes most of his friends money from the birthday dinner. They've all pretty much cut him off except for 2 enablers who still think I'm a villain. Oh, and about that $12,200 dinner bill? With interest and fees, he now owes the credit card company closer to $1,600. He's been making minimum payments of $35 a month. At that rate, it'll take him about 8 years to pay it off and cost over $3,000 total. Last weekend, I ran into Delaney and some of the people from that dinner at a bar. They invited me to join them. We had a great time, and when the bill came, everyone immediately pulled out their wallets to pay their share. Antoine actually said, "After the birthday fiasco, we all agreed separate checks forever." We laughed about it. They're calling it the dinner incident now. Apparently, it's become a cautionary tale in their friend group about not assuming someone else is paying. Final update. Nathan took a plea deal, 2 years probation, 100 hours community service, and he has to pay restitution for the costs I incurred protecting my credit. He also has a felony on his record now, making finding decent employment nearly impossible. His mom reached out one last time, much more subdued. Nathan's been in therapy and finally admitted he has a problem with money and entitlement. Too little, too late, but at least he's getting help. I'm dating again. Nothing serious yet, but I went out with this guy Ramon last week. When the check came, he immediately pulled out his card for his half without me even asking. We're going out again this Friday. Oh, and Josie and I have become pretty good friends. Purely platonic. She's happily married, but she's part of my trivia team now, and she's savage at sport questions. Looking back, I probably stayed with Nathan too long. The red flags were there, but that dinner was the best $55 I ever spent. It cost me a toxic relationship and saved me from what could have been years of financial manipulation. To anyone reading this in a similar situation, you're not cheap for not wanting to pay for everyone. You're not selfish for protecting your finances, and you're definitely not wrong for standing up for yourself, even if it makes a scene. The entitlement some people have to others' money is wild, but the best part? When you stop enabling them, they actually have to face consequences for once. And based on those angry texts I got from Nathan's 2 remaining friends last week, apparently he tried to pull the same stunt at a brunch. He's still learning that lesson the hard way. Looking back, that dinner really was a turning point. I realized I'd been bending over backward to make Nathan look good while he systematically drained my patience and my wallet. At the time, I thought it was love. I thought it was normal to accommodate your partner's whims. But the truth? Love doesn't involve fear, guilt trips, or financial manipulation. That's not love, that's exploitation. After everything with Nathan, I took a step back from dating entirely. I focused on my finances, my career, and rebuilding my boundaries. I started saying no without the guilt. I started noticing the red flags I'd ignored before, the subtle digs, the overinflated sense of entitlement, the expectation that I should provide beyond my means. I was protecting my peace, and it felt incredible. Then Ramon came along. He's different. We met through a mutual friend at a trivia night. From the beginning, he treated me as an equal. We split costs. We joke about who owes what, and he doesn't expect me to cover him in any way. When the check came last week, he immediately reached for his card. Half the meal. No drama, no posturing. It was normal, healthy, and somehow exhilarating after everything with Nathan. I realized how much I had normalized unhealthy behaviors with Nathan. Ramon doesn't push boundaries. He doesn't try to shame me into paying for others. He doesn't manipulate situations to make himself look better at my expense. Being with him reminded me what a partnership is supposed to feel like: mutual respect, shared responsibility, and genuine support. Josie has been a huge part of my recovery, too. I never imagined that a friend of Nathan's would end up being a real ally. She's been honest, blunt, and hilarious, and having her on my side made a massive difference. It's funny how life works. Someone who was tangentially involved in all that chaos became a solid friend, and a reminder that not everyone is manipulative. I also learned the importance of documentation, screenshots, records of conversations, evidence of threats or coercion. It sounds excessive, but in Nathan's case, it literally saved me. His attempts at identity theft, the lies to his friends, the social media manipulation, all of it could have spiraled out of control without proof. Keeping records wasn't paranoia, it was self-preservation. The legal proceedings were eye-opening. Watching someone face consequences for their actions, even if it's just probation and restitution, was a relief. There's a sense of closure in accountability. Nathan got a reality check he desperately needed, though I know he's probably still bitter. And honestly, that's fine. I don't need to fix him. My responsibility is to myself. Financial literacy became a focus after Nathan. I created a strict budget, saved aggressively, and learned to recognize red flags in financial behavior. I realized that generosity should never come at the expense of one's security. Being kind and responsible with money doesn't make you cheap. It makes you smart. That dinner incident, as stressful as it was the catalyst I needed to take control. Social dynamics also shifted. Friends who had seen Nathan's manipulations firsthand began to gravitate toward me more. They respected the boundary I set at the dinner, even if they were initially shocked by the confrontation. Delaney, in particular, reached out afterward, expressing gratitude and embarrassment for being unwittingly pulled into Nathan's schemes. She was honest about how Nathan had pressured everyone to inflate the bill and how the group had assumed I'd pay. It was vindicating to have that acknowledgement from someone who had been right there. The psychological toll of the relationship was substantial. Nathan's constant guilt-tripping and entitlement had eroded my confidence. After the breakup, I realized how conditioned I had become to placate him, to prioritize his desires over my own needs. Therapy helped immensely. I worked on rebuilding my sense of self, understanding the patterns I had fallen into, and recognizing that my self-worth wasn't tied to how much I provided or covered for someone else. Romantic relationships going forward feel different now. I'm more cautious, certainly, but also more attuned to the subtle cues of entitlement and manipulation. Red flags that I previously ignored now stand out starkly. I have learned to trust my instincts when something feels off. Saying no is no longer scary, it's necessary. I have learned that healthy relationships involve negotiation and mutual respect, not coercion or financial one-upmanship. Interestingly, Nathan's downfall had unintended social ripple effects. Mutual friends who had been passive observers of his behavior suddenly started setting boundaries themselves. There's been a sort of quiet collective lesson about not assuming responsibility for someone else's choices or debts. The dinner incident became shorthand among friends for entitlement and the consequences of manipulation. I sometimes hear them laughing about it in private messages, not at me, but at the absurdity of the situation Nathan created. The aftermath also served as a wake-up call about online behavior. Social media can amplify manipulation. Nathan's posts were designed to shame and control perception, but transparency and evidence neutralized most of his tactics. I became much more mindful about what I share and how I protect my digital footprint. Identity theft, in particular, was a serious wake-up call. It was terrifying to think how easily my personal information could be exploited. Locking down my credit, monitoring accounts, and taking preventative measures has now become a part of daily life. Dating again is both fun and educational. Ramon has been a refreshing experience. Simple gestures like splitting the check without prompting feel revolutionary. Small acts of fairness and equality, taken for granted by many, now feel monumental after experiencing such stark imbalance. I'm learning to recognize and appreciate healthy partnership behaviors. Financially, I feel secure. Emotionally, I feel empowered. Socially, I feel vindicated. Nathan's actions may have been disruptive, but they forced me to draw boundaries, reinforce my independence, and value relationships built on respect rather than exploitation. The $55 I spent that night, priceless. It marked the beginning of reclaiming my autonomy and refusing to be complicit in someone else's entitlement. I've also become more protective of my friends. Delaney, Josie, and even Ramon have benefited from my cautionary tale. Conversations about boundaries, expectations, and fairness now happen openly. No one assumes someone else will cover costs or bail out another's irresponsibility. What Nathan tried to weaponize against me has, ironically, become a teaching tool. I share my experience candidly, not to shame, but to equip others with strategies to avoid similar manipulation. At the end of the day, the entire saga reinforced an important principle. Generosity must be voluntary, and boundaries must be respected. My role isn't to enable recklessness or entitlement under the guise of love. Healthy relationships, platonic, romantic, or familial, require mutual respect, honesty, and shared responsibility. Anything less is a drain, not a partnership. Even with the stress, legal battles, and drama, I have no regrets. Protecting my finances, my autonomy, and my mental health has been transformative. Nathan's manipulation could have derailed years of stability, but standing my ground had saved me from far worse consequences. And seeing the contrast in how I'm treated now, by Ramon, friends, and even strangers, reinforces the lessons learned. It's empowering to realize that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it isn't petty, it isn't cheap, it's necessary. The world often tries to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself, but in reality, it's the only way to preserve sanity and security. Nathan's eventual downfall, while extreme, proved that consequences catch up to entitlement. Seeing that unfold, knowing I stayed firm, and being able to move on with healthier relationships, emotionally and financially, has been deeply satisfying. Life feels lighter now. Every lunch, dinner, and outing with friends or new partners comes with clarity, fairness, and accountability. I no longer shoulder the invisible debt of someone else's inflated lifestyle or sense of entitlement. The lessons Nathan forced me to learn are now tools I carry confidently into the future, shaping not just my financial choices, but my emotional and social boundaries as well. The $55 I spent? The best investment in my life, autonomy, and sanity.